On it real quick. Of course, with the Burner Boy made some comments, and I don't know how old that video was, but like I said, it's been circulating. It's all on Twitter. Burner Boy made some comments that the uh, the African diaspora, the Black diaspora, should come back home to visit. Should come back home, and it went from the diaspora to all of a sudden it went to Black Americans, and he used America as an example, of course. He was talking about the Chinese Americans, and he was saying that the Chinese Americans have respect. They basically have respect because of that government that's in place. People respect them. They get support from the government. And African Americans, he said they don't go through exactly the same amount of stuff that we go through. Now he did say, they go through stuff. So he didn't want to downplay what the Chinese Americans went through, but he said that they don't go through nearly the type of things that we go through here because, for one, they have support from their government, and they're all trying to tie it based on also lineage and heritage as well too. He then used Italian Americans, and he was saying that Italian Americans, they have that their grandparents came from Italy and hundreds of years ago, and the first person in that family, they knew exactly who they were, and they also have support from their homeland. And it's basically looking like, hey, Black people, you guys are like almost like orphans. You have the reason you get treated the way you get treated is basically because you have no ties to your homeland. You don't know who you are. So that's why you need to visit almost and reconnect. Now, I'm paraphrasing it in my own words, but when you start sitting up here putting examples saying that, the Chinese and Italians, they don't get treated. No one really gets as treated as bad as you in the country because you have no ties to your ancestral homeland. You have no ties to your true lineage. And the thing about it is that plenty of us have ties to our heritage and our grandparents right here. Plenty of us can go back a few generations and actually trace who our grandparents are. So to sit up here and say that we have no ties to it, a lot of times people want to tie us in the immigrant, and that's the thing about it too. We're getting tied into an immigrant status when Black Americans are not, and I'm talking about Black Americans of chattel slavery. Black Americans of chattel slavery are not immigrants. They're the ones who actually built the country. They also built the colonial Americas that people never give them credit for. Like before there was the United States of America, there was a continental United States, and they built that as well too. So people take away, they don't give you credit for that, and they just seem like it just seems like the United States of America just propped up on its own one day, just popped up out of the grounds, out of the weeds, that it just kind of just something that created itself, and when it created itself, it brought Black people along, and that's just not how it played out. Now the Chinese Americans, Italian Americans, and all the other Americans, the Irish and everybody else, they immigrated to this country. But there was no country before Black Americans got here. So know that this whole thing trying to tie us and say we need to go to the diaspora. And if anybody wants to go visit Africa, I say more power to them. There's nothing wrong with going to visit Africa and do things on the continent. If that's what you want to do. First, if you can afford it, because that's an expensive trip, a vacation. Two, if you want to go over there and you feel like you want to connect in somehow, some way, more power to you. Nobody's over here. You rarely see Black Americans say, hey, you should not go there. You need to go ahead and keep your money. Don't worry about it, this and that. If you want to go there for a vacation and visit, and you say you want to find out more about your lineage, your heritage, or whatever, then more power to you. I don't think that you should be to the point where people are trying to guilt you into going over there. If you can't afford it and you just simply don't want to go, no one should guilt you and say, well, hey, is something wrong with you not wanting to visit the actual continent and go over there? So that's the thing I take away from it. Try to compare Black Americans, what they go through here, and saying simply because, you don't have a tie to the continent is why you get treated the way you get treated. To me, that's just totally a misplay of words. That's not true. You get treated the way you get treated because this country was built off of anti-Black sentiment. Simply as that. That's why you get treated the way you get treated. That's why you look down the way you look down. People understand that you, as much as you contributed to this country, they don't want to see you get to a certain level. So it's not simply for the fact that, hey, you don't have any ties to Ghana's government or Nigeria's government or any other government over there. And here's another thing that Burna Boy missed out. They know that we're over here. If they want to make ties with Black Americans over here, nobody's preventing any of those governments in Western Africa from coming over here and setting up a partnership with Black Americans. If they want to say, well, hey, Black Americans, we believe that you guys are getting treated a certain way. The government officials from Nigeria, the government officials from Liberia, the government officials from Ghana, the government officials from wherever want to come over here and we want to go ahead and get your back. We want to make sure that you guys are no longer treated the way you treated, because if they treat you a certain way, we're going to hold back on some of our mineral resources. We're going to hold back on the cocoa that's coming from Ghana and these other places. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick it to the American government because we feel like, hey, we need to have your back, and we don't want to see you guys get mistreated like that. So nobody is preventing any of the Western African nations from coming over here, forging ties, going on our behalf to the U.S. Embassy and saying, hey, we don't like the way you treat Black Americans. And unless you treat Black Americans a certain way, we're going to start withholding key resources and minerals and everything else from you guys. We're going to hurt you guys in trade. So nobody in the world is stopping the actual Western nations of Africa from doing this. So if you're saying that, the Chinese get protected certain ways of this and that because of, the government and the financial implications that could be involved, because, hey, if you're treating our people like this, we're going to stick it to you one way or another, and the Italians or whatever group you want to say, then, hey, if the Black people really need that help and that protection, go ahead, Western Africa, go ahead and send that protection. Because when you guys are, if you need Black Americans to stand out and be vocal for you, Black Americans will do the same thing. So if you're feeling that we need to, as a people, and you're saying, come over here, come to the country, come to the continent and visit, which a lot of Black people did in 2020, the year of return, went over there, took their hard-earned money, poured it into the actual Ghana economy, and, it was a huge success for them. So if you guys feel like that, hey, we want to use our political stature in the world to go ahead and see that these Black Americans over there are protected and looked out for, else we're going to start holding things back from the United States, go ahead and do it. But I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing that, hey, you need to come over here, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's only Black Americans in the diaspora too that gets pointed out. Nobody guilts the actual Caribbean brothers, nobody guilts the South American brothers. Is always, well, hey, the Black Americans need to do this. The Black Americans don't know who they are. The Black Americans are lost. The Black Americans are the lost tribe. The Black Americans are this or that or whatever. It's always only the Black Americans. There's none of the other groups in the diaspora that actually get shamed to actually come in to participate, to visit. And they're the ones, like I said, in your return with the Ghana thing, they're the ones who pumped in the most money into the actual Ghanaian economy. They pumped in more money than any of the other Black diaspora. And I would even venture to say they probably pumped in more than the most of them even combined. So whenever it's time to go ahead and shame a particular group of the actual Black diasporas, it's always the African Americans or the Black Americans or the American Negroes or whatever you want to call us. That's always the ones that's getting shamed on this level right here. Anybody that wants to visit Africa, I say, please, by all means, go over there and visit, have the time of your life, enjoy the people, enjoy the culture, anything, but that's totally up to you. It's not, let's be for real. It's not an inexpensive trip. If you're going to go over to Africa, you're going to have to be willing to pay anywhere, I'm sure, from $3,500 all the way to $10,000 to have a real nice trip. The air flight, the actual hotel, the food, and this and that, you're going to have to be willing to shell out some money. So it's not like you just talk about taking a trip somewhere here in the United States or the Caribbean, even if we over here. You have to be willing to go ahead and pay a decent amount of money to go over there and visit. That's my thing. So, and getting to the Steve Harvey thing, I want to go ahead and touch up on that real quick. Shout out to those over there on YouTube. Let me read a quick see if I can read a quick comment. FUK Ray says those Africans only understand cutthroat behaviors and tribalism. He had another comment. Why would they advocate for us? They sold our ancestors to Europeans. I'm not trying, and I don't want to make this into an attack Africa space as well either. We know what happened in historically in terms of the African slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. So, I don't want to make this into I just want to make this into hey, this is an information type space. Let us put it together. Let you understand exactly what it is. We are not, we alone always can't take the blame for people not visiting Africa or whatever. Like, if we really, and they keep saying that like it's the actual relationship, a relationship is reciprocal. You put in what you get in. You can't just expect the people over here to put in everything and then get zero in return. Like I say, you have governments that all Black governments and stuff over there, Black people that's in high positions. If they cared about the actual, and not only just Black Americans, but if they actually cared about the actual treatment of Black people worldwide in this country and this world, excuse me. If they cared about that, they cared about the black people in the Caribbeans, how they were being treated and things of that nature, the black people in Europe, the black people in South America, then they would go ahead and they would work with those governments and give those governments a stern talking to and let them know that the consequences of how you treat black people globally will be felt in the economic and the commerce trade. But I don't see that. Exactly. And when you had the whole thing with Ukraine going on, when you had the Africans that were stuck over there in Ukraine, a lot of these African governments didn't even say a damn thing when people got stuck over there and didn't do anything. So you can't sit up here and just make this just a black American whenever the diaspora time it comes to talk about the diaspora and coming back home. If you want to go visit to the Africa, I say all me. And then you also have to look at this here too. And I know this may upset some people. And you know, if you want to talk about ancestral homeland, if you want to talk about where life starts at, yeah, then Africa is man's homeland. It's all of black men, all of people's homeland, black, white, whatever. At the same time, if you have people who have never been to a continent before, the only thing that you know about Africa is what you read or what you see on social media or television, then those people, in terms of their actual viewpoint of what actually is their homeland, they're going to have a different idea. Most Black Americans don't look at Africa as their actual home. You know, they look at it as a place that Black people originated from, but most people look at where they're at. If your family, if you can only trace your family back to this country, then you're going to look at this country as being your actual homeland. You're going to look at whatever state or states that your people migrated from as being their actual homeland. And a lot of us look at the United States of America. If you're talking about your family's been here for 170 years, or 200 years, or 300 years, or 400 years, or 500 years, or you don't even know how long, but hundreds of years, you're going to tend to look at the United States of America as being your actual homeland. So we just have to let people know that as well, too, that a lot of times people say, well, you need to come back home. But if you've never been to a continent, you don't know any of the languages, you don't know any of the customs, any of the ancestral religions, you know, nothing about it, then generally you don't consider that place to be your home, so to speak. You know, you look at it as being part of the actual your lineage in terms of ancestral heritage and all the other stuff, but in terms of your actual home and what you define as being part of you and your makeup, you just what you can actually put your hands on, you don't look at it like that. And I don't want to offend anybody, but you know, I don't know anything about Africa. I don't have a problem going because I wouldn't mind going to visit, but I couldn't sit up here and tell you anything. You know, if I went there culturally, yeah, you may look like the people and stuff like that, but looking like somebody and able to actually fit in and actually understand what's going on are two totally different things. Like I say, you have so many different languages there, and yes, they speak the language of the colonizer, you know, but they have hundreds and thousands of different tongues. You have different tribes, you have different practices and everything else like that. So you can't just sit up here and say, well, hey, this is your home, this is your home, this is your home. Historically, it would be your home, but what you know, that's like telling Native Americans over here, the Mongolian Native Americans, that hey, you know, your homeland is Asia, even though everybody said that y'all been over here tens of thousands of years, you know, your homeland is still Asia because you know, according to a theory, you walked across the Bering Bridge or whatever, and you came over here and you've been over here for 5, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, or whatever, how many thousand years that they estimate you to be over here. But you know what? You're really Asian still. Like people gonna look at you like, well, hey, we've been over here, I don't know how many generations and this and that or whatever. We're actually Americans. So they're gonna look at it that way, like that. The same way I think we look at it the same way as well, too. And like I said, that's not to take anything away from the actual history of Africa. Because you know, like I said, that's what to our knowledge, that's what history and that's what culture and that's what mankind awoke from, and that's where we started. So, you know, we are that just by historical references. Let me go ahead real quick, y'all, and shout out to some of y'all coming up in the space. I know some of y'all may have some issues with the connection and everything else still, y'all. So see Dana up in here. How you doing, Dana? Dwan, I see you up in here. Black delegation, how you doing? We got some of our people coming up in the space, so I just want to give y'all a quick shout out. I'm talking about the whole thing with Burna Boy and his assertion about, you know, Black Americans being treated a certain way because we don't have our ancestral homeland balance in check. Pretty much, we're not like the Chinese and the Italians and this and that. So, you know, basically, we're being mistreated because we don't know exactly where we come from and our heritage, and we don't have our ancestral I guess governments to look out for us. And think about it. If you go back to the Atlantic slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, the countries that you see now on West Africa weren't even formed at the time. So the actual names and stuff that we see, and I know you had the Ghana kingdom and stuff like that, the Ghana Empire, but that's different than the actual country of Ghana. So a lot of these same countries, Nigeria, Liberia, all of these Syria, Leone, all of these other countries that you see now, they weren't even in existence at the time that Black people were being shipped from over in Africa. So to sit here and say we don't have our governments protecting us and this and that or whatever, like I say, that would be up to the actual leadership in Africa right now. If the Africans wanted to go ahead in West Africa and say, hey, we don't like the way the Black Americans are being treated over there in America, we're gonna hold out on the cocoa the cocoa trade this year, whatever, Nestle, Hershey, you guys, y'all gonna lose billions of dollars. That would be on you guys to actually do that. And nobody's stepping up saying that. So let's just be honest about it as well, too. Let me touch up real quick on this article as well from Black Enterprise. That's up in the actual Jumbotron. And I'm going to touch up on that. That's on the far right. So in case you guys want to actually read that, go ahead and take a look at it. And let me just find it real quick. Okay, this is titled, Steve Harvey encourages more Black people go back to the motherland and visit Africa. This is on from Black Enterprise. I'm gonna read it right off of the actual site. Y'all give me a second because at times it's freezing. So it's in the Jumbotron curator Newstoter.com platform. And I actually tweeted this out maybe a few days ago, I'm thinking. An Instagram account posted Steve Harvey speaking about the virtues of Africa as he described several places within the continent that he suggested people visited. The Family Feud host encouraged anyone who goes to the motherland to visit Ghana, Botswana, Johannesburg. Those places, he said, will give visitors a better understanding of who they are. Give me 1 second, y'all, because we got a bunch of pop-ups coming in here. Forget everything you've ever heard, he said. After you go to Africa, you got to go to Ghana first. Then you need to go to Botswana because you need to see what and he just left it there. Botswana is the second richest diamond producer nation in the world. Them Black people over there got something. And then you got to go to Johannesburg. That's what you got to do. You got to do that jump right there. Once you see that, you'll understand who we are. The comedian then discussed a misconception that some Americans have about African musicians stealing from us when it comes to music. Them Africans ain't stole nothing from us. They talk about Burna Boy stole this. No, we stole from Burna Boy. Them Africans is us, man. They're the beat. They're the rhythm. They're the soul. They the hard work. We got our courage from them. When you see them people, they look just like your family, he expressed to the crowd. Earlier this year, Harvey spoke about visiting Africa when he appeared on The View. He expressed that he was in Africa conducting business. He created an African version of the Family Feud television game show. With his involvement, the show became the #1 show in South Africa and Ghana. So that was just Steve Harvey sitting up here and saying pretty much what we got from the African musicians and stuff, and that, I have to strongly disagree with that. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that, anybody, Burna Boy, anybody else is stealing music from Americans or let alone Black Americans. But in terms of, where we got all of this stuff from, and every time it comes to actually like what Black Americans produce in this country, is something like we can never do on our own, that we had to, we had to take something from somebody or borrow something from somebody, or this had to originate 600, 700, 800 years ago from Africa or this place or that place right there. Let me just go ahead and say this straight up front. I respect, everybody has a right to their own musical forms. I respect reggae. I respect, Afro beats. I don't listen to it, but, I can respect somebody. I've heard a few songs and stuff like that. To me, that was okay. But I would have to respectfully disagree with that. I don't think they gave us our courage, like, just to be honest. I think that courage, I look at my parents, I look at my grandmother, I look at my grandparents, I look at my aunts and uncles and cousins and people in my community that actually gave me my courage. So I can't go along with that. He was saying that we stole Burna Boy. I don't know exactly how we could have stole Burna Boy as well either. You know, Burna Boy is an artist. I don't think you have a bunch of black artists over here stealing and taking music from Burna Boy or from any other of the Afrobeat artists. So I'm not exactly sure how we could have stole a brother either. So I'm a little bit I'm a little bit unclear what Steve Harvey was trying to say there. I agree with him. If you want to go visit, if you want to go visit, like I said again, go ahead and visit. I think that'd be a great trip for those that could afford it, for those that want to go. But we're not stealing anything, and when you say stuff like that, man, it implies like we're stealing the culture and this and that or whatever. So a lot of times, Black Americans do things, and then people will say, you got this because you had a touch of the drum in the actual music, that this comes from Africa or this comes from the Caribbean or this comes from that or whatever. But you don't hear the same thing applied when you can hear touches of other people's music, the way that they put their music together, the bars and the notes and everything else, and say, well, that sounds like that comes from New York, or that comes from the United States of America. People kind of down that. So I'm not exactly understanding what Steve Harvey was saying about that. How all of this, just comes from this or comes from that or whatever. Like I say, shout out to Burna Boy and them for doing their thing. But, and I don't know if it's a big beef we got going on right now with Black Americans, and they're having a issue, or it's an issue between Black Americans, and it's an issue between the Black American musicians in terms of the originality of music or whatever. But like I say, I don't really subscribe to what Steve Harvey's saying, that the most popular music genres in the world, Black Americans have created. And when they create it, they have to go ahead and they have to share that with everybody in the Black diaspora, and they have to share it with Latin America, and they have to share it with white America, and they have to share it with everybody in the world. Everybody in the world gets to take credit for exactly what we contributed. And that's not the same way. They don't give Black people credit normally. They'll say it's a touch of this, a touch of that in the music or whatever. But whenever it comes to Black Americans, it's always that, we've had help with something like that. Like we're not smart enough to actually do it on our own. So that's the issue right there on that. And DJ, I know you tried to come up here again, man. And I know the actual space you're trying to get up here, and we're still having those issues, y'all, with the spaces. So I don't know when that's going to work itself out. Hopefully it'll work itself out soon. We got some speakers that try to come up here. They're trying to speak, but it's just the space itself is just still not to that point where it's allowing people to come up here. It's allowing some people, I should say that, but there's a half. It's like half of the people that try to come up here to speak, it's not allowing people to speak as well too. So that's where we're at today, man. I want to go ahead and address what Steve Harvey was saying and address what Burna Boy was saying. And, I can't say what Burna Boy's, what his thoughts was. I mean, it could be from a place of what he felt that he was being respectful, and he just was implying that he thinks that Black Americans should do this or do that and visit or come to the diaspora or whatever, or come back to Africa, and that would be beneficial. And I don't know if there's really any proof that, just visiting Africa or whatever is going to be beneficial for Black people the way they get treated over here. Like I say, I can understand some of what he's saying in terms of the government responsibility. Like, hey, you got a government backing you, and to boot, that may help. But at the same time, that government has to be able to hold its own. That government has to be strong. Like, you can't be a government that's weak and sit up here and say that you're going to tell the United States of America how they can and can't treat their citizens over there. If you have an economy that's strong enough where you can go ahead and you can hurt the U.S. or cripple them some in terms of trading and stuff like that, that's one thing. But if you're actually dependent on that dollar and you have to have it, then yeah, I mean, I don't really see, because let's say, for instance, what Burna Boy was trying to imply, but and the other guy that was asking him the questions, I'm not sure what the brother's name was, but the other guy that was asking him the question about China and Italy or whatever, and the Chinese government. Well, yeah, you can't really compare the actual and that's no shot at the actual countries in Africa, be it in Western Africa or all throughout the continent. But there's no country on the continent of Africa that has the economy, that has a military might, or has a worldwide respect at this point in time that the Chinese have. So no, there's no country in Africa that can sit up here and if we claim Nigeria, we claim Ghana, whatever, that they're going to look at in the same and hold in the same revere as they hold China. love them or hate them, they hear what China says, and they do take some heed to what China says. Italy, we know Italy's been stricken with bankruptcy over the past, I don't know how many years, but Italy, was still would get some respect from the United States government. If the actual African nations want to sit up here and do what they're saying, or what their people saying, because like I said, I've never heard any African nation or any president over there sit up here and talk about the mistreatment of Black Americans in this country. They may go ahead and mention it as an outline or whatever, but they've never done anything to really try to help Black Americans in this country in terms of the mistreatment that we receive. So I would love to see exactly a Black African president in our lifetime actually do something or say something that's really relevant to how we're being treated in this country here too. And Akon, he's another one that says that you should come back to the Black diaspora should come back and build and stuff like that. Listen, no person over here in America, man, and that's not, I shouldn't say no, but most Black people in America are not going to just uproot their families, go over there to Africa and build over there when they haven't done the same thing in this country here. You can't expect people just to uproot themselves, uproot their families, start all over, go to a continent they know nothing about, with the actual culture they know nothing about, with the lineage that only thing they know about their lineage is what they read or what they seen on TV or what they've been told second or third hand, and they just expect them to go over there and take their money and build when those people weren't doing that over here in America. You just can't expect that. That's not realistic. That's not what a grown person thinks. There are those that will do that, but those people that do it are in the minority. It's not a whole lot of people that's going to sit up here and say, you know what? I think next year sometime I'm going to go ahead and quit my job, because most of our people, let's be for real, they're not business owners. Most of our people would have to go ahead and quit their job. If they got kids or whatever, they're going to have to take their kids, uproot them as well, to move to a place that they know really nothing about other than what they read or seen on a YouTube video or heard about. And then just go ahead and say, you know what? You have to go over there with some money saved up, because if you're leaving here, and let's say you have a government job over here, you work for the federal government, or you work for the state government, or you work for local or city or county or whatever. Well, you're not going to find something similar over there that you can just uproot or whatever. I've always heard that a lot of the Pan-Africans say that, hey, if you go to Africa, you need to go over there with a plan. You don't come to Africa to work. You go over there to create jobs and businesses and stuff like that. So they're basically telling you that you can't go ahead and move to the continent and look for employment. You have to go over there with the mindset that you're going to be an employer. You have to go over there with the mindset. That means if you're going to be an employer, that means you need to have some money saved up. You need to have everything lined up that you're going to do in terms of business and everything else. So it's a difference, man. It's like, I mean, where in comparison, you can have people from the Black diaspora, be it the Caribbean, Africa, whatever, come over here and they can find a job. They're not coming over here with the idea, hey, let me go ahead to America and become, as soon as I get there, I'm going to open up a business. No, they say, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to work, and after 5-10 years or whatever, then I'll go ahead and I'll create a business or something like that. But if we go to one of these places, especially Africa, we have to go with the mindset that, hey, I can't go over there looking for employment. If you're a teacher, you can't go over there and say, well, you know what, I'm going to teach or whatever, a police officer. You're supposed to go over there with the mindset that, hey, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create something. And that way, by creating, I can go over there. I also hear too that you're supposed to go over there and create opportunities also for the people living there as well too. So that's just something that I don't understand. Like, we are expected to go and create stuff over there in Africa and also benefit the actual people living there. But people say when an African or somebody from the diaspora comes to the United States of America, they're coming to better themselves and for their lives. They're not coming here, to help Black Americans. First and foremost, their thing is to come over here and to go ahead and improve their situation, which is nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that. But it's just a mindset. It's the mindset that you see that the difference in how people view things. Okay, we're going to come over to the United States of America. We're going to get a job and we're going to try to improve and better ourselves. We're going to go to a nation in Africa and the infrastructure is not that great, and this is not that great, and that's not that great. But hey, don't look to try to get employment to compete against the actual citizens living there, the residents living there. No, come over there and make sure you have something up and ready to run, so you can go ahead and you can create something that's going to benefit you and the people on the continent as well too. So I just find that a difference, just major difference. Bobo, I'm trying to get you up, but it's still Brother, it's still the same thing with these Twitter spaces. I'm hoping in the near future that these people go ahead and get this thing worked out, because this is beyond ridiculous, man. We've been having too many issues with this actual Twitter space thing as well too. Certain speakers can come up, no issue. Other speakers come up, major issue. Like I say, Dana, she hasn't had any issue coming up. Dana's been able to come up here and request to speak in various Twitter spaces, while some of our usual people like you, Vovo, and some of our others that's up in here all the time, y'all can't get up here to save your life. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is, y'all. I can't put my finger on it, because I definitely would love to hear from you, Vovo. It's been a minute. I hadn't heard from you all week, Professor. I know you just got back on, and I hadn't heard from you in a minute either. So I would definitely love it. And any of our people up in the in the space tonight too that want to speak, go ahead and request to speak, and we'll see if we can get you guys up here. Like I say, half of y'all will probably be able to come. The other half, it'll say had a speaker thing on there. Oh, you're speaking. The next thing you know, it's gonna drop you down to listener. So it's nothing whatsoever. Like I say, and it's been going on in all these spaces, man. It's been going on in all these spaces lately with this nonsense. Dana, real quick, I want to say what's up to you, Dana. And I know you had requested to speak. I know you didn't put your hand up or anything like that.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to put my hand up.
Oh, but I guess you go ahead, because ain't nobody up here right now. So
No, yeah, because I saw that clip on Tariq Nasheed feed, and then he be doing late night Twitter speeds. I'll be listening, and it be like helping me sleep. Like, I fell asleep. But I know, and it's like, why do they keep our names in their mouths? Like, and I really, really like Burna Boy. I saw on Amazon his concert at Madison Square Garden. He puts on a really good show. I love that song, Last Last. But when they say monkey shit like that turns me off to where I may not listen to your shit anymore, because, and this is the thing. This is why we need to stop listening to entertainers. You are there to entertain. You are not here to enlighten. You are not here to comment on politics, on the Black struggle. No, and we need to stop looking to them for that. But I just felt it odd that they always want to use us as an example. They never want to hold themselves accountability. Why don't you talk about Haiti? Why don't you talk about Brazil? Because Brazil has the largest in the world of Africans from Africa. It's via the slave trade. They're more African, let's say African descent over in Brazil. Why do they always come to America? And one of the reasons, many are reasons, but one of the reasons is us coming here and how we got here, and Aboriginals that were already here prior to several migrations, right? Before what we see now as the natives, and how all that evolved. But one of the things is because we completely build our own identity, build a country, sustain a country, fought for a country, made advancements in politics and business in every area, entertainment, and then you also see how, with all the negative and all of the intentional disenfranchisement with public policies that was placed upon us, even to this day, and I would say now, as far as Black Americans, it is a little bit, we are faltering a little bit. We have to get back on that. But because we don't give Africa props for nothing, and why should we? Because you didn't help us. You didn't help us sustain what we have now. You can still hear me, Newstoter? You can still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, good. So they never helped us gain nothing that we accomplished here. Never, ever, ever. So we don't look to them. And then on top of that, they don't own shit. They don't control their resources. The Chinese now do. Before that, the European. That African summit is just the new Berlin conference, right? It's 2.0 Berlin conference. That's what the African summit is. They don't control and own their resources. And if they do, their government in different countries hand it over for their own personal gain. So they're just as bad as the grifters and coons and boulets that we have here in America, right? But we don't owe them anything, and they're mad because of that. And they don't want to take accountability to the fact that you got over here because of us. You are allowed to prosper here because of us, because you can't prosper in your country in Nigeria. That's a serious caste system. They have more police brutality than we do here. So, this is why I think entertainers just need to shut up and sing. That's it. Just shut up and sing.
Thank you, Dana. And let me. What do you think about this? Did you hear the part about Steve Harvey? What he was saying?
I gotta go to your website and read the article, because what was he saying? Because that again, he's a comedian. He's a comedian, dude. Why would I listen to you? That's not. You don't know nothing about history, about politics, and that's another thing. These little African entertainers and the people who do come here, they know nothing about American history. Damn sure nothing about Black history here. They don't know nothing about us here. So I don't give a damn what Steve Harvey said. He's a comedian. He's a joke.
Well, let me real quick. I'm gonna just go to the part that he said, because he was saying that we need to visit Africa and this and that, which I said, like, I don't have an issue with. It's the other part of the actual article that he says, and I'm gonna go to the part that I found to be problematic. What he was saying. Give me 1 second, because I gotta, my site, we just do the excerpts of it, so I just go to the actual article, to the site where we have all of the actual the entire article. And it's like, the comedian then discussed a misconception that some Americans have about African musicians stealing from us when it comes to music. And this is what Steve Harvey said: "Them Africans ain't stole nothing from us. They talk about Burna Boy stole this. No, we stole from Burna Boy. How we stole from Burna Boy, I like to know, but this is what he said. We stole from Burna Boy. Them Africans are us, man. They're the beat. They're the rhythm. They're the soul. They the hard work. We get our courage from them. When you see them people, they look just like your family," he expressed to the crowd. Now, Steve Harvey, mind you, he created a version of Family Feud over there in Africa, and that version of Family Feud is number one, I think, in Ghana and South Africa as well too. But what we stole from Burna Boy, I particularly like to know, and saying that they're the courage and this and that, and they're the beat, and to me, that just, now you caping, man. It sounds like you was over there in Africa, and now you're trying to really appeal to the masses over there, because we didn't steal anything from no Burna Boy.
Steve Harvey, he's getting a check. That man, his monthly expenses is crazy. He has to work 24/7 to maintain that lifestyle for him and his family. So he's going to kiss the ass of any country that's giving him a check. And I would like to know that network that his Family Feud is on, particularly in South Africa, is it even Black owned? No, it's not. And Burna Boy, we didn't steal shit from Burna Boy. Burna Boy, he talks about Fela Kente. I'm probably saying his last name, but he's a Nigerian entertainer. But Fela got his inspiration from James Brown, from Black Americans. So the person who Burna Boy looked to, which he said Fela is the one who created Afro beats, which I will give him credit for that. But Fela is the one who got the inspiration, from us here. So I don't know. Even though it's Saturday, I'm just in a mood of saying the F word. I don't know what the fuck Steve Harvey talked about. Again, he also do business over in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Those slave traders that's still slave traders today. Not only are they colonizers, they are current day slave traders. He do business with them, so you're never going to hear him say, anything negative about them, because they're cutting him a check. He has to work for the rest of his life. That man owes the IRS over $20 million, I think $50 million. Plus, he has his yearly expenses, right?
Wait, Dana, isn't he worth over $100 million?
How can you know? He's on paper, but before you add up his debt and his expenses, you could say he he's worth 100 million, but after his debt and his expenses, he's worth probably 20 million. You know what I'm saying? Or let's just say 50 million, half of that, because you owe the IRS 30. And that's probably not even the penalty that they added on. And then you have mansions, you fly only private. All that shit adds up. You have 24/7 security. So you may be, worth 100 before expenses and before your debt and before taxes. Now you allocate all of that. Hell no. So he has to work for the rest of his life, right? At least, he married a black woman, so his wealth will be inherited to his black family, whatever. But anyway, listen, he is employed by colonizers. He is employed by slave traders who are currently slave traders today and have a history of being slave traders. So Steve Harvey needs to have several damn seats. That's him.
You got me when you say he's employed by slave traders. Like,
he is, no, because he does deals in Abu Dhabi, he does deals in Dubai, he does deals in Saudi Arabia. They're slave traders today. The slave trade still exists. It's all throughout East Africa. My daughter, just quick story.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, my daughter went to Dubai, her and her husband, before they was going to Egypt, because he's from Egypt, and she was like, I felt so bad when we got off the airplane in Dubai. They stayed over in Dubai for 2 days. They said that they saw all these Africans, right? You could tell they're Africans, dark Africans. They were like lined up to get on a different plane somewhere. Of course, just flying regular coach. But the way they were treated, it's called observational research. So in real time, you see how society operates, and especially with a certain group of people, because a lot of people from Africa go to the Middle East to be employed. Those people are not paid a salary. Their passports are taken away from them, but they have some type of employment, right? Because with their country where they're from, there's no employment, but they're rich in resources, right? So Africa does not control none of their goddamn resources. Outsiders do. So basically what my daughter saw was part of the modern day slave trade, because these people are going to the Middle East and they're being paid low wages, if any at all, and somewhat held captive, because they're basically indentured servants. That's exactly what it is. So, but that's who he do business deals with. But then you want to tell us that we copy from a fucking Burna Boy, whereas Burna Boy would not be popping until he was played on urban radio here in the United States. We made him pop. Nothing moved internationally until Black America put it on the map. Period.
Absolutely. And the cat too, Wiz, Kid, all of them, like, you have to get validation. And the same thing with people. And I know a lot of people got in their feelings about Eminem, because I heard 50 come out and they were saying that when Melly Mel said that, he doesn't look at Eminem as being a top 5 rapper. Well, it takes validation from Black Americans to actually get to a certain level, especially when you're in the actual, in a genre, something that Black Americans created, such as hip hop. It was Black Americans that told everybody, you know what, Eminem, he's okay. Like, I can listen to him. And once they said it, then the white people was like, listen, like, okay, well, they said he's cool. Let's go out there and buy his music stuff. If anybody can remember back in the day when Vanilla Ice came out, it was Black Americans that was bumping the Vanilla Ice, that Ice Ice Baby. And when he did it, then all the white kids said, you know what? They vibe into it. They like it. Let's go out there and get it. So it's Black Americans that go ahead and make this thing in terms of the actual music industry and the culture and everything else. Because rap, hip hop, let's be for real. You got Asian kids up here singing it. You got kids in the Middle East. You got Russians. You got everybody all over the world globally. The same way you had back in the 60s with the Motown sound, and you had the Beatles over there, you had the Rolling Stones, and you had the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, you had what's his name? A bunch of them that was over there, that David Bowie, all of them love the actual Black sound. And when they start hearing that, they start emulating it. So, Burna Boy, I'm not to take anything away from him or from his skill level, anything like that. But Steve Harvey, now you just sitting up here saying stuff like nobody stole anything from no Burna Boy, man. And you can't sit up here and say that we got our courage, from Africans either. We got our courage from being over here behind enemy lines, having to deal with this stuff that a lot of other people in the diaspora did not have to deal with. So that's just nonsense. DJ, I know you want to come up here, man. I wish you could get up here, but it ain't gonna let you come up here, man. Like I wish I could get you up here, but
damn. Maybe try to create another account.
We got people, Dana. We got people that's got several different accounts that's been coming up here, and still, it just.
That's the Wi-Fi. Then I don't think you're being shadowed there.
No, I don't think it's. I think no, it's not the Wi-Fi. I think what it is because you're able to get up here and in trouble if she wanted to come up here. There's speakers that can come up here. It's just Ray. He's up here. It's just simply It's just something in the actually Twitter system that's going on right now. And Twitter, from that last update, like DJ was saying, they made, it caused a lot of issues. Because you remember that space last Friday we didn't have any issues with anybody coming up here. It was no issues.
Yeah, that was popping too. And
yeah.
I don't know who. Oh, let me just do an FYI because we still got to do that Booker T. Washington space eventually. But
oh yeah,
that guy that was upset when he called me a kid, he was loud and wrong because he kept saying Booker T was a runaway slave. Boo boo, he was born too late to be a runaway slave. He was set free during what do you call that, Abraham Lincoln emancipation, the Civil War. He didn't run away from nothing. He just walked off the plantation because a white man let him. Thank you. But we'll say that for the Booker T Twitter space.
Yeah, we got to do the Booker T one. We got to wait till the actual to Twitter get they you know what together. We got to go ahead so we can have our people coming up here because that they've been hurting our spaces lately, man. Because our people that come up here all the time, every night, they hadn't been able to come up here. So we're gonna do the Booker T space. I may even tell you to holler at Judge Joe Brown so we can see if we can get him up in there too for that Booker T space as well too. So
I mentioned that to him. He was like, why I gotta talk about him? We already did. He was like, he was like, ain't really shit to talk about when it comes to Booker T.
Oh,
he still come up though. He still come up. So I definitely want him to come up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, man, and just getting back to this thing with Steve Harvey, and like you said, I didn't know. I know Steve Harvey's supposed to be worth like $100 million. So, I didn't know that the financial aspects and everything that's going on with him. I didn't know that. But I just know, too, it seemed like as Steve Harvey, the bigger he become, he's gotten over the years that he's kind of strayed away from what Steve Harvey back in the 90s, a lot of things that he okays now back in the day, he would just tell you straight up. He wouldn't with it and stuff like that. So now as more of that paper started rolling in, Steve Harvey then kind of did it like a turnabout. Like before, Steve Harvey would tell you like the rappers and stuff, it's too many of y'all on the stage and this and that. And I don't want to hear this and I don't want to hear that. But now Steve Harvey, boy, he be all for it. Like he's all for that culture now. So he's done a complete 360 in terms of how he actually feels about a lot of things nowadays. And this whole thing, I feel you, man. You created your Family Feud, Africa or whatever, and you want to go ahead and you want to appeal to the African folks. Nothing wrong with that. But you don't. This is the problem with our people. You don't have to throw Black Americans under the bus, man. Come on. We look at I can look at the African cast over there, and I see the way you're dressing. I can see your slang and everything else. Don't sit up here and tell me, man, that you're not being influenced by Black Americans over here. I see the way you Africans back in the day didn't have a bunch of damn waves in their head and stuff too. Now stop it. Come on, please stop. I mean, come on, y'all putting that Dukes on there and y'all brushing that thing down with the wave caps. Don't diss me like this, man. I know what it's about like that. I got the clean head now, but back in the day, I had what they call down south, a head full of dogs, nothing but waves up in there. So don't sit up here and try me, man. Don't.
Just real quick about Steve Harvey. I heard he really ain't like Bernie Mac. And if Bernie Mac had lived and didn't get sick and pass away, Bernie Mac was going to be bigger than Steve Harvey, and I think Steve Harvey knew that. But I've heard Steve Harvey really is a piece of shit behind closed doors. Like he done some backstabbing. So I just wanted to add that notation.
Bernie Mac, and I'm gonna kick it to you, Trevor. Bernie Mac was about to blow up. If you remember the Kings of Comedy, to me, Bernie Mac and Cedric the Entertainer were the two funniest ones on there. Like they just destroyed the actual. I mean, Bernie Mac and Cedric the Entertainer to me were my two favorites on the actual Kings of Comedy. And also, if y'all hadn't listened, the Queens of Comedy was good too. The Queens of Comedy was damn near as good as the Kings of Comedy, if you ask me. And some more. And my girl Adele, who's an underrated comedian, Adele is hell. Like she is really hell. Adele Givers, like she is hell. Like her and Simone to me are two like funniest female comedians, definitely two funniest black female comedians. But that was almost as good to me as the Kings of Comedy. But yeah, you're right. Bernie Mac and them, they killed it though. What'd you say, Ray? Oh yeah, she funny, but she ain't funny as Adele, and damn that's some more. The damn some more ain't nothing to be messed with. Straight up, like some more, like that chick got a mouth on her, boy. Like she be giving it. So let me kick it real quick to my girl Trouble and Leon. Trouble, what's going on today?
Hey, Newstoter, not a whole lot. Shout out to everybody. I came in a little bit late, so I probably ain't got nothing new to add. Dana pretty much hemmed it all the way up on all points. It's a little tiring hearing everybody, not just the Africans, but everybody who's African Black Americans as their dumping ground when they want to get a little bit of clout. It just seems like right now we in an era where it's cool and you get a little extra couple of points, a little couple of cookies in your lunchbox if you say something negative towards Black Americans. And so it just seems like everybody jump out the box doing it. Like Dana was saying, and like they were saying in Tyreek's Space last night, you know, we're home. We don't have anywhere else to go. We're not fleeing anywhere. We're not fleeing to these other nations. Other nations are coming here. So Burna Boy can say, well, you have the Italian Americans who come here, but you know they can go home. The point is they come here. They come here to our home. This is our home. So I really don't even get what his point was and where he was trying to go with it. And listening to him talk, I don't even think he know what point he was trying to make and where he was trying to go. He just wanted to be another one of these celebrities that come out the box to have something to say specifically about Black Americans. Because, like the point was made, nobody is coming out saying the same exact thing. Nobody is telling Caribbeans to go back home to Africa. Nobody is telling Haitians to go back home to Africa or the Jamaicans to go back home to Africa. Nobody is telling any. Why is it so important for you all to continue to make the point that Black Americans specifically should go back home? Go back home where? We home. What are we going back to? You all can't even get along over there in your own goddamn country. It's a billions of y'all that's just like y'all. Y'all won't even get along with yourselves over there. How are we supposed to come over there and prosper? So I don't understand what it is y'all want us to come back home to. Come back home. We home, goddamn it, we home. Y'all go home. When your little green cards run out for your little 10 years, take your ass back. We're trying to pay people to marry your ass so you can stay here. Take your ass back, but you won't go back home. You instead trying to find ways to stay in our home. Our home. You know, and I'm getting a little bit sick of people, even like Steve Harvey, you know, stepping, fetching, plucking ass. And when you say that people don't have to jump out there and throw us under the bus, they don't. But when they want that check, they do. Because that's the only way that they'll be able to get that check is if they're throwing us under the bus, because it's cool to do. We're in that era right now. We're in that era right now. But how are Africans, how do we get our strength from them? How?
I want to know that one as well too, Trouble.
That's a hard one right there because we globally are one of the only groups of people, Black people, who are fighting the system of white supremacy as hard as we do. You other mugs are looking for a comfortable position within it, to the point to where y'all are constantly having our names in your mouth. That's why you want us to leave so bad, because you would look like nothing more but to replace us. So you need us to leave to make it easier for you to replace us. But it ain't getting ready to happen. We don't draw our strength from you. Draw your strength from us. We are the children of the ancestors that you could not kill. You thought you were sending us to uncertain death when you sold our ancestors away? And many of them died on the boat ride coming over here. But we are the survivors of that Holocaust. You still trying to kill us. Because you wasn't trying to kill us, you wouldn't be telling us to go back over there. Steve Harvey needs to shut the whole hell up. Don't need to collect your little family dollar check before the next scandal come up. You know, go ahead and collect your little African family dollar check or family view. When I say family dollar, collect your little family dollar check and shut the whole hell up, because that's what it's gonna amount to at the end of the day, a family dollar goddamn check. And shut up about Black Americans and what we owe to somebody else. We don't owe nobody the goddamn thing. We are the salt of the earth. Us right here. Nobody else put seasoning and put the funk on the shit the way that we do. They copying off of us. If we was drawing strength, if we was the ones who was, getting anything from anybody else, our culture wouldn't be the way that it is. Whether we take certain aspects from different things or not, we remix it and we make it our own. So it's not like what you all have. It's never going to be like you all have. And as you pointed out, Newstoter, we're not walking around here. We was at one point in time in the 80s and 70s maybe with, little African stuff on and, trying to feel that love and be close, because we wanted to feel that love towards our people. We had that global love for our people. But the more we wake up and start to see that everybody don't have the same love for us, and we're finally putting our foot down and calling shit out, now there is this taste in everybody's mouth. Well, you all should continue to take our bullshit and let us grift off of you, and let us, make financial gains off of you, and just shut up and be quiet about it. And we're not being quiet about it. We're being rather loud about it. And we're going to continue being loud about it. We're tired. But we're going to move on. We're going to press forward. So no matter what Steve Harvey gets up there and say, he's saying it for his white audience. He's saying it for the Africans, because that's where he's pulling a little bit more money from. So he needs to make them feel special. He's rubbing a couple of little buns over there, whatever. Who cares? Burna Boy, I've never even listened to a Burna Boy song before. I've never heard one of his songs before. They don't even play it where I'm at here in the South. So there is that. Sure, it's all over the internet, but I've never once clicked on the shit to listen to it, because that's not my type of music. So until something just starts playing on the radio one day and I don't know it's his ass, and I can start, I'm driving down the road feeling the pressure of it, he's a non-MF factor in my book. I just need everybody to stop speaking on our names, but the fact that you can't keep us out of your mouth says we're doing something right. We're doing something right, and you're doing something wrong, because otherwise you wouldn't have us in our mouth. See, I don't talk about people who are not worthy to me unless I'm talking shit about you because of some bullshit that you done brought my way. But I don't go out of my way to talk about people who's a non-motherfucking factor to me. So we must be a big factor laying babies and eggs and everybody goddamn head, because they constantly are bringing shit our way. Oh, the Black Americans, leave us alone. We leaving you alone, and we want you to leave us alone. And I'm gonna land on that. Get y'all's life.
Absolutely, Trouble. Let me add this before I kick it to Leon, because I remember the whole thing a little bit when it went up down with Nikki. Not calling her Nikki, but Monique. I'm gonna call her Nikki Parker, but Monique. And basically, Steve's whole thing was like, hey, basically when Monique was saying, hey, I'm telling the truth here, or whatever. And Steve was worried about the money aspect or whatever. And she was like, well, hey, like basically he was saying, just go with the flow. Don't worry about how your feelings supposed to be and this and that. Just go ahead and get that bag. And I'm like, after a while, you wonder, like, man, how much money is enough? Like, we got Black people that's got millions of dollars in the bank, and they act like they live in check to check, like the people up in this space here. Millions of dollars in the bank. And knowing damn well Monique sitting up here telling you how she been bent over the rail and whatnot, and you sitting up there and you know it yourself, and a bunch of other high-end Black people knew it as well too. Oprah knew it, and Lee Daniels knew it, and all of them knew it, but they still sitting up here for the simple fact that, hey, we don't want to miss. You got billionaires, some of them sitting up here acting like they ain't got two damn nickels to rub together, and sitting up here and just won't stop here over a damn dollar. You rich as hell. Steve Harvey is rich as hell right now. I know, Danny, you were saying that his wealth might be this or that or whatever, but how many people in here can say we got $20 million in our bank account? Steve Harvey can walk away right now and sell all his stuff and walk away and be a wealthy man. Go ahead, Trouble.
He could, but like Dana said, you have X amount of dollars in the bank, but you gotta calculate that up against the debt that you have, and that debt doesn't just go away totally. So these stars, a lot of them celebrities, are in a position where they have to continually make money, or they're going to have to start selling assets, and they're going to have to start living like regular folks again. Because you can't maintain the property of a mansion if your funds dwindle down to that $20 million. You can't maintain all of those mansions that you have. You can't maintain that private jet or airplane that you have. You can't maintain 24-hour security around the clock. You're not going to be able to maintain that for very long. So those checks got to keep coming in. And so more money brings more problems. And you got to keep getting it. You got to keep getting it. You got to keep getting it. Because if the moment you stop getting it, you got to live like us regular Negroes again. And they don't want to have to go back to living like us regular Negroes again. You know, and that's Steve Harvey's problem. It's money over everything else. See, he's in a position right now where you notice a lot of people in the beginning of their careers, they catered to the Black community and they got to where they needed to be. But once they started getting that white limelight, once they started getting that white man's team, and they drew that white audience, and Family Dollar gives him that, God damn it, Family Feud gives him that white audience now. And so being on the Miss America pageant or Universe pageant, whichever one, it gives him that white audience now. So a lot of them don't feel like they still need that Black audience. When Monique came through, Monique is still true to the hood. She's still true to her Black audience. So it wasn't about the money with her, because she don't make her money how she makes her money. It's about the principles of it. And some of these Negroes up here ain't got no goddamn principles. They ain't got no morals. They ain't got no real ethics. All of that shit goes out the window when it comes to that almighty dollar. The dollar has become their god. It has become their maker. And they ain't trying to break them.
Real talk there, Trouble. I can't disagree with what you said right there. So let me go. And I would just say this right here, Trouble. Even if he had to sell everything Steve had, go ahead and do like the rich white folks who declare for bankruptcy and stuff like that. So it doesn't really touch all your money or whatever. He still will walk away as a millionaire compared to everybody in this space right here, man. So stop with all of the just the wild stuff right here. Like, I know he's got a million things going on, but come on, man, really.
Yeah, you know good and well that woman he got sitting in his house and gets ready to stay with his ass if he ain't got nothing. How he get up and how he gonna do it.
Hey, but I'm saying what I'm saying, Trouble, that even if he did that, he's still gonna be a millionaire. Like if Steve said today, you know what? Hey, I had enough or whatever. And you're right, the wife, Marjorie, you got to have some paper for Marjorie. But if he said I'm gonna walk away or whatever, he's still gonna have 15, 20, $30 million in the damn bank. You know what? Let's go ahead and sell this. Let's declare bankruptcy. The way Trump declared bankruptcy 100 damn times, and he's still a self-proclaimed billionaire. My man could do the same thing. Like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm tired of working 10 shows and doing a Family Feud and doing this and doing that. I want to have a little bit of time to myself. I'm about 70 years of age or whatever. Let me go ahead and enjoy life myself or whatever. He could do that. But don't like these Black people act like they just starting their life out, man. Like they ain't got no money or whatever. Like, come on, man. You got tens of millions of dollars in the account. Leon, what's up? Go ahead and unmute your mic.
What's going on here? Man, I'm like straight from the scrap right now. The trouble is finish off the late and then some. So I'm trying to gather up my thoughts here. I don't know. Can't be part five. Just bringing up the truth. Just bringing up the truth, though. Like to your argument, just so you're talking about art. Yeah. You know well. Harvey filed for bankruptcy. They gonna treat Steve Harvey like they treat Wesley Snipes. He ain't gonna have no money as you think he does. Because when you run franchise all that million. My man said, you know what? I ain't paying no goddamn taxes. They almost try to kill him. You know what I'm saying? Burna Boy, I don't know nothing about him. Somebody was talking about him. But like y'all was saying about like how he was pretty much for the community, culture kind of sold out with Family Feud. Perfect example right now. Look at Judge Mathis. Another one. He's been breezy lately, talking about his art about us. He's another one. But like you were saying, man, for some reason, or Trouble was saying, when they get that money, man, they start thinking weird, and like, Trouble was saying when they start drinking that tea, they just snap to another person, then like, it's all about the money. You're absolutely right, But it's like that old saying, most of them stars and A-list, they been living out of their means. They look like they got the money, they got the cars, they got the houses, all they have to eat. You know what I'm saying? So if anything happens, they might have to, like you were saying, selling assets and stuff, because who knows how much actual property that they actually own, or cars that they actually own, how much debt they have on top of it. A lot of people don't even realize a lot of these actors, actresses, and sports entertainers and all that, a lot of them have debt. Or actually playing in debt. I see too many damn ESPN 30 for 30s and all these athletes, man, when they career-ending injuries or whatever, they piss poor because they just have bad money management, And sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it's depends on who the people you have around are not really looking out for your best interest. They're only looking out for their interest. So when that money dries up, they're on to the next person. You know what I mean? Leave you hanging. Or you'll have accountants that say, hey, I'm making all this money. Well, you ain't got that money no more. I'm about to look for this client. And they leave you out to try instead of trying to get your money in order first so that you can come. It's one of those things. I'll land there. I'm not bad.
All right, Leon, I appreciate you coming in, man. Like I said, to me, it was just a trip right here. Like I said, with the thing with Burna Boy, he was talking about Black Americans. It started off, they were talking about the diaspora, and then it slowly went to Black Americans. Like whenever we focus on the diaspora, it's crazy how it always goes to Black Americans. Like we don't focus, and Dana said that we use the diaspora as a cover to go ahead and get at Black Americans. I want to hear an argument when they talk about Black diasporas, and it's not including Black Americans. It's always including Black Americans. So we always talk about what Black Americans need to do. It's never actually, you don't hear people just focusing on Jamaicans or Bahamians or Haitians or whatever, or people from South America. It always turns to Black diaspora, but it's always a code word for Black Americans. So like I said before too, also, if the actual continent of America is actually Africa is actually worried about the actual, the mistreatment of Black Americans, and you guys have governments right over there in Nigeria and Ghana and Sierra Leone and Senegal and everything and every other place over there that you guys can go ahead and you can start requesting better treatment of Black Americans. You don't do that. You sit up here and you don't worry about Black Americans, how they're being treated in this country. So really, that lets us know that you really could care less. So stop framing and saying that you guys need to visit here and this and that or whatever. There are plenty of Black Americans. I'm sure there's thousands of Black Americans each year that go to Africa and visit it. You're not gonna get Black Americans on a large scale to go back and move to Africa. You're not gonna get that. So I really.
I don't know, man. Because once we find out about that reparations, all that money will be coming our way. They might be rolling out the red carpet. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see. Trouble, go ahead and unmute your mic.
No, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of us trying to move over to Africa. You're going to have some here and there, but a lot of people recognize the difference in the treatment when you go over there to visit versus when you're actually living over there. And so if you all aren't getting along with your own people, your own brothers and sisters there from area to area, what makes us think that we're going to come over there and be safe, and what makes you think we're going to deal with that? We can't even get we trying to get black people to move to the South now. We trying to get black migration going on to certain states right now so we can take over and actually have a voice. We got our own problems that we got to deal with over here. And I don't know if maybe it's an American thing, which is why they keep calling us out, because the whole globe knows Americans are arrogant as hell, and so, maybe us Black Americans are arrogant too, and that's why they call us out. But my husband always say arrogance is a sign of intelligence. So, I mean, there's that, so we're arrogant as fuck, but we're calling that shit out. We take our leaders to task. And yeah, we have a hard time trying to rein these crackers in here in over stuff, but we're not one to let anything slide. What are you doing in your nation? You're not trying to do anything in your nation to show us that you're trying to be inclusive towards us. The only thing that you're doing, and people like Burna Boy and Akon and others of you are coming out saying negative things towards us. You think coming out saying negative things towards us or about us is supposed to make us want to move over there? Is that really what you're thinking? Is that your end goal? I don't think that's the end goal. I think that you're gaslighting, and you're being just as disingenuous as Laura Ingraham was when she came on with the whole, I think black people, the Democrats should go hard for reparations and go big or go home, and you're trying to gaslight to make us believe that you're for it when you're actually against it, because saying shit is one thing, but actions speak louder than words, So your actions aren't showing us that you really want us to be on the same page, and then you're constantly coming out saying things that's negative towards us in the same breath. You're not speaking on everybody else. You're speaking specifically on us. Now, maybe it's because, again, we're arrogant as fuck. But it is what it is. Again, I feel like to a certain degree they want to replace us, and these white folks have put a battery in their pack, in their back by them coming over here and able to do and get certain things. But you're no different than any other immigrant that they bring over here to do the same things in which you're doing. And all of us at this point in time in history realize that the only way to fully assimilate into this country is to have a naturalized hate for the American Negro, and that's the proving factor of assimilation. And I seen some white man post the other day about the problem with Black Americans is they refuse to assimilate, but if only we would assimilate, we wouldn't have such a hard time and such a victim mentality. We have a victim mentality because we're not assimilating properly. So you're still trying to whip us. You're still trying to whip us with that whip, but we still dodging that motherfucker like the Matrix. So everybody wants to continually beat on the Black American and make us bow down, and we're not doing it. And so everybody's just going to keep coming at different angles and different directions until they can finally see us bowing down to whatever it is they got going on. I'm going to land right there, but it's because I'm getting annoyed with the shit now. But yeah.
All right. Real quick, y'all, I just want to do a quick space today. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. This was just a quick space. We'll probably be back tomorrow night. So I just want to go ahead and holler at everybody. Thank you guys for coming through. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Y'all take care and enjoy this Saturday afternoon.
Have a good day, Toter.
You too now.